You're listening to The Prop Shop, the #1 podcast for your shop. Brought to you by the UnitedPropBuilders, Coffee Powered Media, and Tucker Props, with your hosts Adam Hazy, Sean Toomey, and Ryan Tucker.
Hey Shop Rats, welcome to The Prop Shop, the podcast that brings you the coolest tips and tricks for your costuming and replica prop needs. We're your hosts, Adam Hazy.
And Sean Toomey.
And this week, there's actually a lot of things that have been going on. So before we get too much into it, I'm just going to say for everyone, I apologize for any random background noise you may hear, as I am not in my original location. I have traveled far and wide on a magical quest. And now I am in a new city going to a big university. So there's people probably outside of the apartments going to be like yelling and screaming and stuff like that. So there's that.
Yeah, probably got to get like a bunch of foam and just line your room with it.
Yeah, just like block out the windows, don't let the sun in.
Yeah, that's actually what I need to do. Yeah, that's actually what I need to do because there's a lot of echo around me right now.
So there's good and bad things for that because now that I'm here, I have a Harbor Freight within driving distance of me. So yay!
Yeah!
Bad news is, I can't use anything from that Harbor Freight because the apartment complex doesn't allow chemicals and other such things. So I can't work on any of my costumes.
Well, you can build with foam. You don't have to...
I don't have my big bandsaw anymore, though, to cut nice, perfect lines and 45-degree angles. And I would have to get, like, a big cutting board to set on the floor or something and waste a ton of money.
Just go home on the weekends.
Nice sharpeners.
Just go home on the weekends.
It's like a 2-hour drive there, and a 2-hour drive back. It's pretty bad. So, Sean, besides everything I've been up to, have you been up to anything fun and exciting?
Not really. I mean, other than finding out that there are members of the Mandalorian Mercs within 20 minutes of me, not really.
Oh, that's cool. So are you an official member now, or?
Oh gosh, no. I've got a lot to do to my kit in order for me to become an official member. But hopefully by the end of the year, I'll be official.
Okay, that's cool.
So
but
that's
you
what I'm shooting
joined
for.
the garrison or whatever?
Yeah, well, not really. You really only officially join like a clan or something when you're an official member or something. That's what I gathered from it. So,
okay.
I've got more. There are more members in the Tennessee clan than there are in the Mississippi clan that are closer to me.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
So that's kind of why you went with the Tennessee clan.
Yeah, that I kind of introduced myself to the Tennessee clan rather than the Mississippi clan because everybody in the Mississippi clan is like 200 or 300 miles south from me, and I've got members like 20 minutes away from me.
So closer to the other state, more or less.
Yeah. I mean, I'm within spitting distance of the Tennessee state line, so
Okay, I love how none of these garrisons are like central of the state. They're all like skewed to the far.
Well, that's why the Mississippi clan, it's kind of based around the Jackson. It's Jackson and below.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, which Jackson is the middle of the state. So it's like the middle of the state down all the way into Louisiana.
That sounds exciting.
So, yeah.
So I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah.
But without farther ado, we have to introduce our special guest for the evening. You may know him from YouTube. You may know him from Facebook. Or you may know him in real life. Introducing Brian Johnson of Johnson Arms. Yay!
Boo, boo. Hey, guys.
Hi,
How's it
Brian.
going?
Hey.
Pretty good. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me.
So, for anybody who may not know you, you have done a lot of cool builds in the past and are doing some currently. Everything from those light-up DJ fire boots to some Adventure Time swords and even a lot of Nerf gun mods. So, how did you kind of get started doing all of this?
Well, I started about 6 years ago, and I'm 38 now, so it was around 32. And I guess I was at that age where I realized that, I didn't have 10 years to get good at something, that, I needed to really kind of push it. So I kind of looked around at what I had access to, and Nerf guns, or Nerf Blasters, was something that were relatively inexpensive, and they kind of looked cool, but they were just the wrong color. So I thought, well, let me, customize one. So we did, and sold it, and then immediately ran out and bought like 5 more. And that's kind of what started it, and
Yeah.
I had a love for Nerf guns, Nerf Blasters, SA Blasters. Can't call them guns. But the blasters, they're so much fun. The fact that they still shoot a Nerf dart is like blows people's minds. It can look cool, but yet still be useful. And they're great for cosplay and everything else. So I still do a lot of them. But the problem is that they actually take more time than a lot of the resin props do to prep paint. So I charge less, do more work. So it's purely because of the love of it, because it certainly isn't like a financially good decision to do them.
Right, because Nerf blasters are expensive to begin with. At least the bigger ones are.
They are, and I started off with the pistol size, like the Maverick is the perennial favorite, and then kind of worked my way up. And as I started getting emails from people asking, "Oh, can you make something like this?" I eventually got to where I was just working into the cost, and these people that were supporting me by doing the commissions were also paying me to practice, which was the best way to do it. And so I just I've got thousands and thousands of hours into it now, and I look at it, and it all kind of started from that one Nerf gun, because I've never had any other monies to help support it. So everything has just been the money that I make gets reinvested into the business. And getting back to what I said about my age is that I think I was at an age where I realized that is so important to just reinvest as much as you can back into it. And I've seen the fruits of the labor, and now I kind of get a chance to do all kinds of neat things that I can't afford myself to buy, but I can do it for someone else, finish it, get photos, and then have to wait by to it. But at least I owned it for a few minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least you get to kind of like hold it and feel super cool and be like, yeah, this is mine. Okay, bye.
Yeah, but I can always make another. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite Nerf blaster that you made? Because I know that Mass Effect one's pretty popular.
That's the one that has been seen by the most people. Like Kotaku picked it up, and it kind of got passed around. And it's the one I've seen the most copies of, which I think is great. I can't promise that anything I do is absolutely original. I don't purposely go out and try and copy anybody, but great minds think alike. And sometimes when you see one of the shapes of these things, it lends itself to be a District 9 pistol or something. And so there's only so many colors that you might use. So they look similar, but I've always tried to put my own take on it, and whatever would be my style. I've just found that other people doing it, I get to see what their interpretation is. But that is definitely the one that has been seen by the most. And then some of the steampunk ones are what I would say to be the most intensive as far as just putting all of my skills together. And they're the ones that I always look forward to doing the next one, because it's got to be bigger and more grandiose. And eventually we'll have actual steam power and all that.
Yeah. But I know what you mean about how it's like a lot of people will see the one gun and decide to modify it a bit, because like the one that's popular right now is that Guardians of the Galaxy one, where it has like the basic shape, but a lot of people are taking them, buying them, and then adding maybe a part here or there, and then just completely repainting the thing.
Exactly right. I actually picked one up a few days ago, and because I'm doing a set of like the really legit looking resin cast, I wanted to kind of do a test paint. So I figured test paint on the $10 thing, not on the expensive thing.
Right.
And it came out really nice. And when I looked at it, I was like, holy cow, this thing is 90% of the really nice resin replica. And I've always felt like the paint is kind of the magic. It absolutely has to be nice underneath. But I've taken some really horrible looking things and put paint on them, and it's kind of like a gilded turd. But I respect the fact that that it's now gotten a second lease on life, because whatever it was to begin with, either a bad design, like some kind of really alien looking thing, it looks horrible in hot pink and orange. But then you paint it to look like a Needler from Halo, and all of a sudden people go, "Oh, it's awesome!"
Yeah.
You feel good. You kind of feel like you took the misfit toy and now it's going to have a good home.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see just how much paint actually affects how well something looks.
Yeah.
Like you can have as much detail as you want, but if you botch the paint job, people are gonna know.
Oh, and the biggest thing when I was kind of looking around online, way back when, before I got into this, I saw a couple that I was like, oh, that looks really nice. And then I went to DeviantArt and saw the full-size photo, and it's one of the few websites where if you click into the photo, it can blow up to like 3,000 by 2,000.
Yeah.
Full res, you're looking at pixels, and what I found was that they looked really nice from afar, but if you looked up real close to them, they were horribly sloppy. And
Oof.
I just, and I realized that, everybody's at a different level of their abilities and their specialties and whatnot, but I looked at it and I thought, you can probably do better than that, and look at the attention that thing got. So that was where kind of got the idea to start doing a couple paints myself, and I messed up some. I still mess up some. It's just now when I mess up, it becomes part of it. I get into the wear and tear or whatever. There are no accidents. It's kind of like Bob Ross. Turn into a happy tree now. Or
yeah. So I know there's many different ways to paint the Nerf blasters, but do you keep it assembled and painted, or dismantle each piece and paint each piece individually to reduce the chance of sticking on the moving parts?
It depends on the particular blaster, because there are some that are so complex inside that really the last thing you want to do, unless you've done it a dozen times and know where all the springs are from that spring out when you open it, it's more time intensive to mask everything.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's one of the things that I found that my talent is to be able to mask with tape for hours and not care. I can zone out, I can listen to my shows, podcasts, what have you, and I don't sit there and dread what I'm doing, because I kind of in my mind am looking at it finished, and I just know that this is the step that I have to get out of the way to get to that next step to eventually get to the payoff. So the masking is not a barrier that I can't get past, but in the event that it's one that's fairly simplistic, I'll pop them open and take them apart as much as I can, because there are some parts that have to be treated differently because they're a different type of plastic. And, and sometimes it's just a real crispness to having separated parts. And a lot of times, even if you mask really well, you just can't replicate the same thing as if they were two separate parts.
Yeah, because I know that's where I get really impatient, is the masking and taping everything off, because I'm like, okay, it's done, all I have to do is add the paint, and I'm good to go. So I'm like, dun, dun, dun. And then I'm like, I think I have everything nice and good, because I'll have everything like on the edges real nice, and then like I'll paint everything up, be all impressed, wait hours or a day or whatever it takes, go to peel everything off, and then I see that it like seeped under the tape, and I'm just like, oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like negative, or the opposite of Christmas morning. I get that sometimes too, and you can do the best you can, and you can have as much knowledge as you care to have to avoid those things. But bottom line is, it still happen, and it's just, I think it's the creativity that allows you to look at it as, oh, this is ruined, or you look at it and you go, that's actually kind of cool looking,
Yeah, because
they screwed up Boba Fett's helmet when they painted it. I think it was supposed to look nice, and somebody really botched the paint with the tape. And they just said, oh, look, it's weather beaten now.
Yeah.
I think it was a cover-up myself.
Yeah, because it's like there's just some things you can't stop. Because like you could be painting and then you leave it out to dry or something. It's just like the heat or the humidity lifts the tape, kind of seeps. Who knows what could happen to it. But kind of back to the disassembling of the guns, like I had one of the deployables where you could kind of like bunch it up and then you hit the suitcase handle and then it like flops open and the stock extends and all that. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to paint this up. Go take everything apart, good, no problem. Reassemble it once just to make sure I know what I'm doing. Yeah, good, no problem. Take it apart again though. And then there was this one other piece I didn't take apart before that I did this time just to make sure I got everything out of the way. And to this day, and this was like a year ago, to this day, I have every piece still sitting in a pile because I don't know where this one white piece goes. They don't line up. I put it in every configuration I can, get all the other pieces back in there, and then it just doesn't work. So it's just sitting there in a pile waiting for this one white piece to go back on.
Have you checked online to see if there's a disassembly guide for it?
I have, and it's like all the YouTube videos, the wiki pages, they're like, yeah, here's how you take the spring out and the air piston and the stopper and blah, blah, blah. But they never show this one white piece. It's like, it's inside of the main body, like just above where the trigger housing would be. And I don't know what to do because every video, nobody ever takes that off. So I have no clue.
Why don't you just look where it's at and then?
Because all the videos are low def. There's no 1080p disassembly guide.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let me know which model it is that you're having trouble with, and maybe I'll be able to do a video with that specific part in mind.
That'd be amazing.
I have just every model in my shop right now in one box or another, so I think it'd be very possible. So definitely don't forget to send me that. I'll be happy to help.
Yeah. So how did you, besides the Nerf Blasters, you've also done, I believe, wooden swords? Like, I know you did the Adventure Time swords at one point, and some other things. How'd you go from the Nerf Blasters to the props?
It was really just client driven. You know, I was getting 5 or 6 emails a day with people asking for various things and seeing that, oh, you did this, so you might be able to make this. And in a lot of ways I couldn't because I was just starting to get the tools that you just have to have, and didn't have a giant compressor, all these different things that open the doors to really being able to fabricate. So I would do the best I can, and then I would call on friends and people that I knew that did have that equipment to do those parts. And one of the people that I really have relied on a lot is my dad, because he always was the woodworker and making things as I was a kid. And to a large extent, I think he kind of gave me a lot of that inspiration to do things. And then, of course, my mom is really artistic and creative, so it was a very good environment for me to be in, to see them do things and say, oh, well, this thing that you buy off the shelf, you can modify it like this. And it kind of blew my little mind that, oh, wow, yeah, you can modify things. Once you bought it, it's yours. You make it better. And didn't realize what that was. But when I've gone back and looked in my my past, I see that I used to make swords when I was a kid. I used to repaint Hot Wheels cars, and just everything I owned, I seemed to fiddle with, and never assumed that was something that was valuable. But it was fun, and that's probably why I kept doing it. If I thought it was a job, I would have ceased and desist and never done it again. But with the swords, it was son and my daughter and I were fans of Adventure Time, and it was the most iconic sword in the show aside from the golden sword. And we decided to do a short run of them, and so my dad and I worked together, and he did a lot of the cutting and fabricating, and then I took over and finished and painted, tried to make it look as nice as possible. And that's where I realized that my place ought to be in the paint, and I'll fabricate if I have to, but if someone else has already done a really great job and they're making those casts available, then I should buy one of their kits, paint it, and make the client happy instead of telling them it'll be 5 times as much to build it from scratch. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I definitely am doing more fabrication, 3D printing, and all that has been great. But it was baby steps, and I knew that I wasn't going to take any projects that I could not fulfill, because I'm sure you guys probably know it's a really fast way to go from happy day to a horrible day. If you take someone's money, can't deliver, and that money's gone, refund them, then you disappear for 8 months and come back as someone else, and it's just, I knew from the very beginning that was never going to be me.
Yeah.
But I always have a good reputation. So.
And it's one of those things too, where it's like you don't want to reinvent the wheel. So if somebody has good castings of like a helmet or a weapon, then you just pick that up.
And same thing with the Nerf. It was just like, they're so cool, you know. You
Yeah.
can up onto them. It's an awesome platform. They should push that more. But then you realize these big companies, they can't suggest that you paint them to look realistic.
Right, because then they'll get into law issues and safety concerns and stuff like that.
Exactly, and it's gotten out of hand. You know, to where kids, if they carry around a bright blue Nerf blaster, it's treated as if they brought a thermonuclear device to school, and you got a 5-year-old crying and being expelled. He has no idea what's going on. So,
Yeah.
So there's those concerns, but it's all in how does the person that has it in their hands
Use it.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be spray paint and a cap gun can get you shot because you can spray it black, walk into a store, meet a guy that has a real gun, and then you're dead. And,
Yeah.
and I just see myself as going way beyond that with art, and hopefully put it to a point where somebody's not going to pay what I charge, and then use it in a crime.
Right.
Obviously, they'll save that money, add to their crime money. It wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I have to say, one of your newest things you've done, I've been super impressed with the paint job on the Halo. The name's escaping me now. The sword handle, the energy
The
sword.
energy sword, right? Yeah.
Like that just looks beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the raw kits. Sean Bradley does a phenomenal job with these. There's still a lot of work to get the seams, the sides in 2 pieces, and they just kind of butt up against each other. They don't interlock, which I don't know how he could possibly do it any different than he does, but
Right.
you have to know how to seal those edges or use packing tape to cheat. But with the paint job was the thing that I knew was going to be my part, and I really wanted to try and make it look as close to what I envisioned the ones in the video game. And I always take a little bit of creative license if I see that clearly the designer didn't want to do it that way. He had to because it was from Halo 1 and they're running off of like a 286. So
Yeah.
I'll make it look nicer than that, but still keeping with the theme. Kind of like Master Chief's olive drab. A lot of his suits were this like olive metallic.
Yeah.
It just didn't look good. And I was like, I'll do it if I have to, but I'm going to stick with military olive drab. And I've never had anybody tell me that I should do it the other way. So, there's always the chance for me to kind of put my own interpretation on it. And that sword was one where the paint that I used was stained glass paint, which is
really?
And it's kind of watery. It's viscous, but it isn't. It runs, but not horribly so. But you can thin it with water. You can run it through an airbrush. They come in all these different colors, which are transparent. They also have their line that is transparent with pearlescent mixed in it, which also shoots through the airbrush fine. And it's great. It dries pretty fast. And not that I normally work with acrylic, but it's one of those things where I couldn't think of a more cost-effective way to do it. And and I think it came out really nice. I had first done it on what was called a water sword, where the blade was supposed to look like water.
Mm-hmm.
And it, I thought came out beautifully. And so I knew when I was going to do the sword that was the technique I was going to try. And then I backed it with that Alumiluster, that really chrome paint, to kind of give it a mirror behind it. And overall, I'm really happy with it. And I know you can hide stuff in photos, but I really think it looks better than the pictures or the video have shown.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now on your DeviantArt page, and that thing looks amazing.
Thank you. I owe a lot to Joshua Kane, who rigged up the LEDs with the Adreno chip, to program it. And Sean, put a lot of work into it. The handle, inside the handle, it says Sean Bradley 2009.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's at least been thinking about doing this for 5 years, and you can tell he does a great job on it. And it's one of those things where I can't find a better way to do it. So support the other guys that are also trying to, either supplement their main day job or do it as a living. And I think that the same way groups of, actors get together, that, we as, lower rung prop makers who work with the fans and the independent filmmakers and hopefully move on into bigger and better things, that none of us will do it by ourselves. And
Right.
say that we're all going to give each other all of our secrets and all that stuff, but you can say, man, that guy really paints well, or that guy is the best fabricator, he's the best 3D modeler, and you just support it. And I've found that to be such a great way to become friends with a lot of people, but also just have where any commission comes in, I can usually go, oh, I need to send an email to so-and-so, and get them involved in working on it, so that they get paid, I get paid, and the project looks absolutely as best as possibly can.
Yeah, because I know, like, there's a lot of people who are, like, good at painting, good at making their props look good. But it's one of those things when it's like, every time I see you make a video or a post about something that you've painted up, it's just one of the coolest things I've seen.
Well, that means a lot to me. It really does, because I sit here and go, hey, I'm a dad who sees his kids every other weekend, that's trying his best not to sit around the house with all the free time and level up characters on video games, which it's so easy to do. I love every time I see a new game come out and go, oh, I want to play it. And I know if I buy it, it's going to sit on the shelf, and by the time I actually get around to playing it, I could have bought it in the bargain bin for $10. And
Yeah, that's why for video games I kind of wait till they're on sale. Because it's like, I know there's only certain points I'll be able to play them.
Yeah, and $70, $60, it's like insanity. I can't. It better be mind blowing. I better run through a box of tissues crying by the end of it, or there's no way I got my money's worth out of it. But when I do play them, it's research, and I get to chalk it up to looking up designs and things, even though I'm actually playing.
Yeah, because it's one of those things when it's like, people are like, oh, hey, because there are a few times when it's like, my friends will come to me and be like, hey, I have this idea to make this Nerf gun look cool, or something like that, and I'm just like, okay, well, before you ask me to do anything, take a look at Brian, and then I show them all your stuff, and they're just like, geez, that's amazing.
Oh man, I need to pay you a commission then.
Nah, because it's one of those things where your work is just that good, where I'm like, yeah, you don't want me to do this.
Well, again, I appreciate that tremendously, and I'm glad to be able to be doing it, and any kind of creative input that I can put to other people, when they ask my opinion on something, I take it as a tremendous compliment, and I do feel like I'm getting to that age where it's like, man, all you can do now is encourage these guys that are in their 20s and in 30s, and however old they are, but just give them the encouragement that just all I've done is just pound the rock, just thousands and thousands of hours. I've got about 4,000 hours on a podcast software that's called Stitcher.
Mm-hmm.
I typically only listen to podcasts when I'm working, so that's 4,000 hours there that I've been working while I listen to shows, and then the countless hours of music and everything else I've listened to. So, I'm probably in the 8,000 hour range.
Oh, wow.
And they say at 10,000 you should be an expert or you should quit. And I'm hoping to be the expert and not quit. But there's still things to learn, and within the realm of what I do, I'm always eager to try and figure out something. And sometimes it ends up being on a commission where I'll take a commission and I'll know 90% of it, but there's 10% that I know that I better get on YouTube or start asking people questions, because I have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where, especially with like our type of craft, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you put 10,000 hours in, but tomorrow a new technique comes out that nobody knew until then. So it's one of those things where it's like, our area is constantly evolving, whereas more like painting the fruit and all that is pretty much set in stone.
Yeah, this is true. And, my dad was a computer programmer for a lot of years, and I know at least a few times I would hear his frustration when they would change to a new language. And he'd bring home another telephone book-sized instruction manual and start devouring it. And I just look at that like, there's no way I'll ever do that. But it was something that he could do. And all of a sudden he'd be like, oh, I know Visual, or I know C++ or whatever was the software. And I just realized that, man, we spend so much time virtually leveling up characters, and I got the feeling like, man, the first thing I need to do is level up my character here.
Yeah.
Because there's never a revision. I don't lose it. I don't have to start over at square one. And that was just, he's one of the people that kind of showed me that, but that's kind of a similarity to the 3D printing that seems to be going on with everybody now. They've seen what these can do, and some people complain and go, "Oh, well, you're not an artist. You didn't sculpt it." But I've seen what it takes to model these things, and it's like it's still art. There's a lot of work into it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, especially with 3D printing, still in the gray zone. It's like if you modeled it, you printed it, and you painted it, then amazing, great job. If you got the file from someone else and you printed it and you painted it, you still did the paint on it, so it's still technically your piece of art.
Yeah, it's all a canvas. When people go, "Well, you charge what for a $10 Nerf toy?" It's like,
it's the work that goes into it, not the product itself.
I'd much rather buy a $10 canvas and charge you $1,000, and I don't have to paint one side of it.
Yeah.
Nerf Blaster, flip it over, do it again, make it match. Don't. You get two for the price of one, and
that's always the hard part, is getting both sides to match up.
Or not lay wet paint in your lap and screw up one side while you're trying to paint the other before you let one side dry.
Yeah, because that's one of my hardest things is symmetry, whether it's trying to doodle or draw something or trying to paint something. It's like I'll make one side, it's like, oh, this is really good, I'll do the exact same way and the exact same steps I did last time. Oh, it looks weird.
It's where you cheat, though. You make a stencil, you flip it, you mirror flip it, and then you use that to get the angle to where it matches.
Yeah.
French curves for making all kinds of different curves and rounded edges and things. So, there's a lot of these techniques, which is great about your podcast and podcasts like it, where people can share some of what they know, and it's a repository for knowledge. But it's got to be that greatest thing where there's one of my techniques that I have that the day the guy kind of offhandedly told me about it, my mind just sparked. I was like, forever changed. Tomorrow things will never look the way they did before today.
Yeah.
But, and it was kind of the case. And I know I should read more and look at more things and follow more people, but I have a hard enough time just posting photos and trying to update my website, which I don't think I've posted on for 3 months, which is horrible because it still gets a lot of hits, and I have to think people are like, oh, I'm so disappointed when they see me going, hey guys, happy Easter, or whatever.
Easter was like 7 months ago.
Oh, yeah, but in another 5 months it's going to be Easter again.
Yeah, so see, you already got the post ahead of time. You're fine.
Right, I'm thinking ahead, like not taking your Christmas lights down.
Yeah. So, what would be your recommendations for starting items for somebody who wants to get into being a painter for their props or costumes or whatever it is?
Well, first of all, I'd say don't do it. It's horrible, no money, and really uphill battle. So just find something else to do. Call me when you need the paint done. But if you're persistent and you don't listen to my good advice, I would say go to thrift stores and just find toys. It doesn't matter if they're broken. Go to yard sales. Go buy a plank of plywood and stencil out a design on it, and then learn to cut it out with a jigsaw or whatever you have available. And just work within what you have. And when you eventually sell something, you don't go spend it on a video game. You turn around and you go, what can I buy at Harbor Freight? Or what can I buy on Amazon or wherever else that is irritated me with the last one, like sanding by hand. The first thing I did was like, this is ridiculous. I'm buying a foam sander, and now I'm like a magician with a foam sander. I can get into crevices that foam sanders should not get to, and it's because I've just spent so much time with it that it's like playing a violin. I know this thing, and it works for me, and I'll hand it to someone else, and they'll use it, and it'll be like, they'll destroy it.
Yeah.
So with the cheap stuff, keep reinvesting in yourself, even if it's little increments. Just get some other tool every time you put some on eBay and sell it, or every time you take a commission, count for some of the money for the commission to be that tool or that new paint that you wanted to try, or just something. Make it part of it so that you're excited that you're going to get to try that new thing, or that when you're done, not only did you get paid, but you also now will have an easier time with the projects going forward. And just emulate people if you want, but don't ever think that you're going to get anywhere because you look like you paint just like Picasso.
Yeah.
You'll be the copier that paints like Picasso, and it doesn't matter how good you are, but if you come up with your own angle, your own style, it's magic. It just happens. You can tell people that, but until you actually see it happen, where you go, oh, look, that's my style. It's something that comes with perseverance. So, every time you screw up, it's like you had an opportunity to learn what you did. Don't do that again, and proceed on till you hit the next, bump in the road. And just after a while, you stop having as many bumps. And when you do have a bump, it's like, oh, okay, well, I know this is going to help me going forward. So, I look forward to making mistakes because some of them are the best tricks that I have, and no one's ever going to learn them unless they really screw up.
Yeah.
And if they really screw up, they're going to probably throw it in the trash. You go, garbage, and they'll never learn what I learned from it. So the more mistakes you make, the better chance you're going to come up with something that makes your look unique, whether that's the building or the painting side.
Yeah, and then you mentioned garage sales earlier, which I love garage sale season. You can find a lot of good, cheap tools that still work fine. That's how I got my bandsaw for cutting foam with, was at a garage sale for $10, which was a steal.
You got garage sales, but estate sales where, unfortunately somebody's probably passed away, but if it's a guy, there's a very good chance that he had a garage full of tools.
Yeah, and that's a good spot to get like your air gun or some paints or some tools that you wanted to get but are just too expensive at a retail store.
Oh, yeah. You can destroy it, and then when you learn how to use it on the one that you paid $10 for, you'll be ready to go out and get an Iwata airbrush for $500 and not destroy that one.
Yeah, because then you'll be like, I know how to use an airbrush more or less. I mean, each airbrush has its own little kinks and tweaks to it, but overall, you know how to use it now, and from there, you're good to go.
Exactly right. And and the next step is probably Harbor Freight, and everybody seems to poo-poo on a lot of their equipment, but I will tell you that I've got a heat gun that I've had for 2 or 3 years and never had a problem. And and so many other things. I don't buy any precision equipment per se, but 2 or 3 projects that you pay for, and if it only lasts a few more, then I usually just chuck it and go buy another, because the one at Woodcraft or some other store like that is 10 times as much. So I can buy 10 of these, and unless I'm needing to get it within a micron, it's probably going to do the job. And same thing with like EVA foam. They're about the cheapest I've found, where you can walk in and walk out with like 20 pieces of foam for like $20-$30.
Yeah.
You got a coupon. It's like you just can't do that. And to ship that stuff is insane. So when Em said that he was close to a Harbor Freight, I was like, oh, I know how that is, because when I first found him online, I was like, this place is awesome. And then I did a search, and it found out that there was one that was like 5 minutes from my house. And
Yeah.
that's the moment where you go, yay!
And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you practice on those cheap tools, and then you go and buy your more expensive tools, but it doesn't matter. In the beginning, it doesn't matter whether you have an expensive tool or a cheaper tool, because tools break. It matters how you use them and how you treat them. It matters what you get from them.
if you're on a deserted island, you're not going to take that combat knife and go, made in China, throw it in the water. You'll use it because it's all you got. And if
Yeah.
you can afford that tool, I don't care what brand it is, it's better than doing it manually.
Yeah.
And as far as like the detail spray guns and stuff that are, I think, $13, I could buy one per project and chuck them in the garbage every time. They're good enough. When I look at the competitors and they're $250, $100, it's like golf clubs. I just assume that my game will get no better by buying better equipment. That I can make a bad guitar sound good. And I can, spray brush and still get a nice paint coat.
Because most of the time, especially with like spray guns, really what you're paying for by that point when you're getting to the expensive ones is the name that's on it and how much paint it can hold, more or less. Because if you don't wash them, you don't treat them good, you don't clean them, they're all going to jam and break.
True. And there's some precision to it, the tolerances and all that. But that a lot has to do with the maintenance, because the first time you use any airbrush, if you don't clean it properly, it can easily spray just as poorly as anything else.
Yeah, and it's like I've had some quote-unquote cheap tools that have lasted and performed way better than expensive tools have. So it all just depends, really. I mean, every tool is hit or miss.
Right.
Well, the good thing is to try them. And if you can try whatever reciprocating saw for $20 as opposed to $100.
Yeah.
I'd like it to prove itself to be worth being in my shop, because if it's not, I don't have enough room for a bunch of tools that I don't use on a regular basis. And I'd rather know on a $20 one than find out I spent $100 and it's going to collect dust.
Yeah.
5 years before I find a use for it again.
So, do you have an absolute favorite project that you have done? Or is your favorite project always the newest one you did because you learned something new from it?
Well, my favorite project is one that I don't get to tell anybody about.
Oh.
It's kind of like my favorite job and my favorite other thing, and all those things that I'd love to tell people about, you don't get to. And they pay for your silence. But they're, it's been very nice opportunities. And a lot of it I just chalk up to persistence and having a good reputation with Google. I have a lot of to where if I post something in 5 minutes, and you do a Google search for it, images I'll probably show up in the first couple lines, even though I just posted it, and the other pictures are from like 5 years ago with a gazillion hits. And maybe it has something to do with that they just happen to find my stuff and just don't look any further. But I get inquiries from companies that I just never assumed that I would ever work with. And the only problem though is that it's almost immediate that before they say much of anything, it's non-disclosure agreement. And, if you ever go against it, you'll never do any of this stuff again. And I just can't risk it. But as far as projects that I can talk about, I would absolutely have to say that some of the more big and grandiose, some of the big steampunk, weapons. One that I haven't really posted much. I need to post it. It's a machine gun. It's like a belt fed, and it's huge. It's built off of a Nerf Vulcan.
Yeah.
It's got a water jacket for the barrel and all kinds of other goodies on it. There's just so many though that it's almost like kids where you can't say, "Oh, this one far and away, I love this one the most."
Yeah.
But they're given some time to think about it, I'd probably be able to say, yeah, this one I probably like the best. But just off the cuff, about 20 of them swarm into my head when I try and think and go, well, this one, no, that one, no, this one. So after a while, you just go, I love them all the same.
That's pretty cool. But yeah. So a little spin-off of that question, is there a project that you would love to do that you just haven't done yet?
Yeah, and part of it is because the pieces of the puzzle just haven't fallen into place yet. I really want to get more into doing all metal props replicas, that sort of thing. The very first one that we worked on, there's a film called Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Block.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. That's a great movie.
Yeah, I've watched parts of it. So many of these movies, I know parts, like parts where it showed the gun, the weapon I'm trying to get information for. But that was one that I watched, and I can see where people really like it. Neil Patrick Harris is a cool guy, so I think it was a good blend. But we did. I worked with another Brian who is a metal fabricator, and he was able to mill all the parts out of aluminum. And we had the body powder coated and had LEDs installed in it, and that is kind of the first of what I hope will be many projects where we're going to try and do fairly popular iconic props, but do them in metal. And make
That's cool.
Okay, so they will be expensive, but they will be like to where I can't find any fault. It's really tough. I look at everything I've ever done and go, maybe that's why I couldn't tell you my favorite, because I don't like any of them. No, it's better. Every single one. If I could reel them all back in, I'd repaint all of them, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like every time you got one done, you got better at it.
Exactly, but you can't go back and take the other ones, and you don't want to call them and go, "Hey, I do a better job than I used to. Can I redo it?"
Yeah.
After a while, I realized that any artist, their first stuff is kind of important. People can visually see where like where I told you where I found that trick where I could have had the last piece I did before I tried the trick, and then the piece that I tried it on, and if I kept those two, that to me would be the two most important pieces I've done, because it was like an epiphany, and it was funny because the way that I was told this trick had nothing to do with the way that I implemented it, but as soon as the guy was talking about it, my mind just clicked, and it was like, oh, I know what else I can do with that. And it's one of those things where someday I will spread the word about it, but for the time being, it's one of those few things that I do that I go, I'm going to keep that one under wraps. But the rest of it, love doing the videos, love anything I can do to help make better builders, and because we collectively can get the attention of everybody around the world, but one guy, two guys, no matter how good they are, they're going to be showing the same 100 people the things that they make, and those people will clap and go, "Yeah, that's nice," and that you'll never get past that. But if all of a sudden there's this, movement of people building things for all the cosplayers, more people get into it, causes it to be bigger, has there to be cons all year long. I'm sure you guys remember when there was like one or two, and that was it. And now they run all year long, where there is no more convention season. It's every month, and that's nothing but good for us who get emails from these people going, "I have money, but I don't want to build this, so will you build it and I'll give you money?"
Yeah.
And you go, "Yay, I'll pay my bills. Yes, I'll do that."
See, I can't wait until the convention becomes every day, where it's everybody just dresses up like that as normal clothes. Like, that's what I can't wait for.
The world is a convention.
Guys don't costumes every day. You're missing out.
I know, but there's places where I go that have dress codes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my dress code.
You need to wear a shirt and shoes.
You wear a mask and they have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Desk, and then they might know who you are. So.
Yeah. Or I have to show an ID and they're like, I know who you are.
Right. Well, I used to work in a bank, and so I did the tie and long sleeves and all that. And it was nice enough, but the only part I enjoyed was getting to talk to the clients and ask them about anything besides banking.
Yeah.
And the bank, of course, didn't see that as profitable, but in the years that I worked for them, I met people that were super successful, and then the people that would have me check their account balance, and I would tell them 15 cents. And they go, "Oh, good, only 15 days to my Social Security check."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, I don't want to be that guy." And it taught me that the people that kept coming in and saying, "Hey, I've got this other bag of money. What should I do with it?" they all own their own businesses. They would tell you all the horrible stories of things they put up with and got through, and I started to see a pattern that every one of them had failure, 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 success, failure, failure, success, success, success. And it slowly went from lots of failure, little success, to a lot of success, and they got to the point where you could take every penny they have, and tomorrow they would have $10,000.
Oh, jeez.
Roll it, It just,
Yeah.
Like Trump tells you, he's like, I could be a billionaire in a day, and it's true. You get that mindset of, I need to go find 10 grand, where most people are going, I need to go find $100. And eventually $100 is like throwaway money, because that won't even buy me a piece of equipment. And then one day you sit there and go, I'm negotiating for $20,000 equipment, and I'm acting like that's nothing. But 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I would have been like, give me 20,000 and I'm out. I quit. I'll just
Yeah.
20,000 next go.
But I have to say, I don't think the bank would appreciate if you went to working with giant spikes and an axe and all kinds of other things.
Wasn't allowed to bring much in for show and tell. That's for sure.
Yeah. But we're about coming up on time, so Brian, I'd like to thank you once again for coming on the podcast with us today.
Guys, it was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it, and and definitely keep me in mind. I love an excuse to leave before the AMs wrap back around. So anytime you need a third person, I'll always be happy to jump in if I can.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you back again. But
Awesome.
If people want to get in contact with you, where's the best place they can do that?
Well, I always direct people to my DeviantArt page because it has links to everything else, email and otherwise. So I'll give that out because it's also where I think there's close to 700 photos of things that I've painted and done.
Yeah.
It's HTTP, but it's johnsonarms.deviantart.com, or just go to Google and put in Johnson Arms props or Nerf.
And I guarantee you'll find it.
You'll find a car in England, but don't click on that one. Click on the other things that say Johnson Arms.
So, Sean, where can people find you if they wish to get in contact with you?
Well, people can find me at SeanEngine951 on Twitter and Coffee Powered Media on YouTube.
Nice.
And yourself?
Well, if you would like to get into contact with me, you can email me at UnitedPropBuilders@gmail.com, find me on Facebook, join the Facebook group, United Prop Builders, like the page, facebook.com/UnitedPropBuilders, or if you like the content we produce, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/UnitedPropBuilders, or find us on iTunes or Stitcher at The Prop Shop. So until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.